My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 28 years old, and if there's one thing life has taught me, it's that sometimes the people you trust most are the very ones who teach you the harshest lessons. For as long as I can remember, my family carried this strange tradition of turning laughter into cruelty. Jokes weren't really jokes. They were daggers wrapped in smiles, aimed at whoever looked weakest at the moment. And more often than not, I was the target. Growing up, I was the quiet kid. The one who listened more than he spoke, who dreamed of a life outside the walls of our cramped home, who believed in the kind of respect you don't have to fight for. But in my family, respect was conditional, and it was never given to me. Instead, I was the punchline, the one everyone tested their sharp words on. I learned early on that silence was safer than arguing back, because when I did, it only made things worse. That silence, though, had its consequences. Over the years, it became part of me. At school, I kept my head down. With friends, I never let anyone get too close. I lived with this fear of saying the wrong thing, of opening up only to have it used against me later. My family had trained me well. But Christmas Eve, that was the night everything changed. My family had gathered at my parents' place, the same house where all the cracks in my childhood had formed. The smell of roasted chicken filled the air, mixed with cinnamon and pine, but beneath it all, there was the same tension I had grown used to. Laughter echoed from the living room. Too loud, too forced, like people trying to convince themselves they were happy. I walked in carrying a small gift for my mom, something thoughtful though not extravagant. She smiled, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes, the kind that always came when I didn't meet expectations she'd never voiced aloud. Dinner was a blur of noise. My cousins bragging about jobs and cars, my uncles talking about business deals, my siblings slipping subtle insults into casual conversation. I ate quietly, letting their words wash over me, the same way I had my whole life. But then came the moment that flipped my world upside down. My father cleared his throat, holding up his glass. Before we get too deep into dessert, I think it's time we talked about something important. The future. I looked up, unsure where this was headed. He gestured toward me. Daniel, why don't you share with everyone what you've been up to? I'm sure they'd all love to hear. It sounded innocent enough, but his tone carried that familiar edge, the one that meant he was setting me up. I swallowed hard, put my fork down, and said, I've been working at the firm downtown. Still junior level, but I'm learning a lot. It's stable, and I'm grateful for it. Silence fell for a moment. And then, as expected, the laughter began. Stable? One of my cousins snorted. That's code for boring. You're still just a junior? At your age? Another chimed in. Learning a lot. My uncle repeated mockingly. Translation, barely scraping by. Their laughter grew, bouncing off the walls, each jab sharper than the last. I forced a smile, trying to pretend it didn't bother me, but inside, my chest tightened. My hands clenched under the table. And then my father delivered the final blow. See, that's the thing about Daniel. He's comfortable being small, comfortable playing it safe, never aiming higher. That's why he'll never be more than average. The words hit harder than anything else. Not because they were new. He'd said things like that before, but because of how casually he said them, how the whole room nodded along, agreeing as if it were fact. I felt my ears burning. The room blurred for a moment. I wanted to disappear, but something inside me snapped. I took a deep breath, pushed my chair back, and stood. The laughter quieted, surprised by the sudden movement. My voice shook at first, but I forced the words out. You know what? You're right. I am comfortable being small, because every time I tried to be big, to take up space, to speak, you all cut me down. Every success I've had, you've dismissed. Every effort I've made, you've mocked. And I let it slide. I let it happen because I thought if I stayed quiet long enough, maybe one day I'd earn your respect. The room went still. My father stared at me, stunned. My mother's eyes widened. My cousins shifted uncomfortably. But I didn't stop. But here's the truth. I continued, my voice steadying. Respect isn't earned in this family. It's dangled like a carrot, and the joke is always on whoever tries to reach for it. Well, not anymore. I don't need your approval. I don't need your validation. I'm done playing the role you wrote for me. I grabbed my coat, my gift from my mom still unopened on the table, and walked out into the cold night air. My hands were shaking, my breath visible in the December chill, but for the first time in my life, I felt free. That night was the end of something, and the beginning of everything else. I threw myself into my work with a fire I hadn't known before. No longer burdened by trying to please people who never cared, I began focusing on pleasing myself. I stayed late. I learned fast. I took on projects no one else wanted. Slowly, people at the firm started noticing. My boss pulled me aside one day and said, "Daniel, you've got potential. Don't waste it." Those words, so simple, so different from the ridicule I was used to, ignited something in me. Within 2 years, I climbed from junior level to managing my own team. By the third, I was being offered a partnership. I bought my own place, nothing extravagant, but it was mine. A space filled not with mockery, but with peace. And yet, no matter how far I came, the memory of that Christmas Eve lingered. Part of me still carried the scars of years of belittlement. But another part, the stronger part, used it as fuel. Every time I doubted myself, I remembered that moment, that room of people laughing at me, and I turned the doubt into drive. Then, last Christmas, something unexpected happened. I received a letter from my mother. She invited me to dinner again, said it had been too long, that the family wanted to reconnect. At first, I crumpled the letter and tossed it aside. But later, I found myself smoothing it out, reading her words again. Part of me was curious. Part of me wanted to show them who I'd become. So I went. The house looked the same, though a little more worn. Inside, the decorations were familiar, the smells the same. My cousins were there, quieter than I remembered. My father sat at the head of the table, older, weaker. When I walked in, the room fell silent. For a moment, no one spoke. And then my mother, tears in her eyes, said softly, "Daniel, thank you for coming." Dinner was awkward at first, filled with stilted small talk. But I noticed something different. No mocking. No laughter at my expense. My cousins spoke about their struggles, their jobs not going as planned. My uncles avoided boasting. Even my father was subdued, his usual edge dulled. Finally, he cleared his throat, just like he had that night years ago. But this time, his voice was different. Weaker. "Daniel," he said, his eyes meeting mine, "I was hard on you. Too hard. I thought mocking you would toughen you up. I see now that I was wrong. You didn't need tearing down. You needed support. And I failed you." The room was silent, everyone watching. For a moment, I just stared at him, searching for the catch, the hidden mockery. But it never came. His words, for once, were sincere. I nodded slowly. "You're right. You failed me. But I didn't fail myself." And with that, I felt something inside me shift. Not forgiveness, not exactly, but closure. That night, I left the house lighter than I had in years. Not because my family had changed, but because I finally understood something important. My worth was never theirs to define. It was mine, and I had claimed it. So if you're listening to this, if you've ever been the quiet one, the overlooked one, the one turned into a punchline, know this. You are not defined by their laughter. You are not small. You are not weak. You are powerful in ways they can't see. And one day, you'll rise above it. And when you do, you'll never need their approval again. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Your support helps me keep telling them, and maybe, just maybe, they'll help someone else find their strength too.